Okay, there.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to part 2 in the series about your context. And as we jump in this morning, I want to welcome everyone to the call. For those of you that may have missed the first session, it is recorded and on our YouTube channel and our website, so you can go pull it from there if you want a refresher or if you want to share it with someone. Today's call is being recorded as well and will be made available under the catalog of classes that we're going to be doing in these mini short form things. Less is more. Be brief, be brilliant, be gone. I'm working on the brilliant part, so we'll see how today goes. And for those of you that were on the call last week, just to reset some context for this call today, last week what we did is we talked about why, what, and how as it relates to creating and setting a context and what that means, specifically why you would want to do it so that you have it as a tool to be able to be something that holds the space for what you're going to create and all the unexpecteds that come in this year as it relates to your goals, and really an anchor that's going to help you move forward. What it is, it's choosing a word that is the highest context of what you want to shift or step into that's going to support you. And then how you do that, there's a daily application that goes with it. And so today's call is set up specifically for those of you that were going away and working on what you thought your contexts would be for the year. On last week's call, I talked about the context that I had chosen and how I'd gotten there for the last 2 years, actually, and wove the story into that to give you an actual example of what that looks like in real world. And so as we come back into today's conversation, before we jump into the conversation, I'd love to open it up for any questions, thoughts, comments, takeaways, clarifications before we go into the bulk of what we're going to do today.
I do, if I may.
Yes, go for it, Eleanor.
So I'd never even heard of anything like this. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like when you're saying context, I'm like, context, great. Context, what? I have no idea. But then I did some more research on it, later on, and was able to kind of grasp a little bit more about the how to basically go about it. And then what's so funny is, of course, Google, here's everything. And so then I started seeing it like a lot, and, like, this is my growth. And like, I'm on the One Thing forum, and I saw like growth words or not growth, sorry, context words on there for the year and stuff. And so now I'm like seeing it everywhere. And I was like, it's weird how things fall into place like that. So I just really think it's just a really cool way to go about it, because I've never thought about something like that before. So those are my thoughts.
Well, and your reticular activating system is alive and well, bringing all of those things to your attention.
Yes, it is. So I'm like, all right, it's here, and this is it. So yeah, thank you, because I didn't know what it was.
I love that. Well, and now you do, right? And so you're gonna see it. You're gonna have the opportunity to get a deeper understanding as you learn and and integrate and and pick one that's going to be just right for you for this year. All right. Who else? Any other feedback, comments, questions, clarifications from our call last week?
Hey, Casey. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Great to see you. I'm well. Thank you. I thought how you framed context in the bowl of fruit analogy was super insightful last week. So that just really resonated with me. I shared it with a couple people this last week. I kind of ruminated on it myself, and it made a lot of sense. So I appreciate the way that you conveyed that.
Thank you. Okay, well, today's call is going to be about jumping in for those of you that are picking one and digging into that a little bit more. I will share another layer of what's transpired since our call last week, and another real life example of how to use context. I flew to Salt Lake City for a business trip last week, and I was at an event where I was sitting in the front row of a room full of over 600 people, and in session listening to a speaker, and someone in the audience said, does anyone know CPR? Like, they shouted it out during the session. And then someone else said, is there a doctor or a nurse in the house? And that triggered, that was a very triggering event of a little post-traumatic something associated with Rick, and immediately I had two people that flanked me, one on my right and one on my left, that were ready to escort me out of the room because I was pretty much melting down. And I said, no, I'm not walking back past the back of the room. They said, we can take you out the front. I'm like, I'm not doing that to the speaker. I will sit here and, and go through it. So I did, and yet the central nervous system was just like on overload, and essentially just like being transported out of my body back into those old memories. And so I took care of myself that night. I didn't go to the big celebration recognition event that was going on. I went back to the room and was quiet, just really still working to reset. And when I woke up on Saturday morning, I was the closing speaker for the event that day, and my 40 minutes was on the power of moving from your head to your heart to realize your dreams. And it was essentially Rick's story woven in between that entire 40 minutes. And so as it got closer and closer to me and the time that I was going on to speak, like I literally couldn't put a sentence together. My head was all over the place. My emotions were like all over the map. I 30 minutes beforehand was standing at the back of the room because they mic'd me up. I was pacing. I was attempting to calm myself. I'm like, I understand, like anytime, like all of the things I'm telling myself in my head when I go on and I speak, it's not about me. It's about the audience, and don't make it about myself. And here I am in this like experience that is very much about myself in that moment, which is in direct conflict with what there is for me to go do. Right. And so I'm standing at the back of the room, and then I was like, what's my context for this year? My context is possibility and falling in love with what's possible. And so I stopped moving at the back of the room, and I got very centered on what that could mean. It's like, well, if I fall in love with what's possible is that all of this stuff running around in my brain and body could actually become still. What's possible is that I could go on stage and deliver a powerful, moving message that's going to be a balance of information and emotion that impacts somebody's life. What's possible is that somebody could leave this event changed as a result of what they hear. And what's possible is that I can go have that experience from a calm, grounded, connected place, and I can fall in love with that being possible. And it just all of a sudden slowed everything down that was going on in my mind, my heart, my body. And it set the stage, tongue in cheek, for what was going to happen, because when I got on stage, I said, my purpose here today is to tell you a story about possibility, what's possible for you, in hopes that you too can fall in love with possibility. And I was off to the races, and I was good to go. There was parts of it that were emotional. However, I was grounded, I was present, I was authentic, I was all of the things to weave and tell the story, and finish on time and facilitate a great experience, because there was an interactive component to it. And so I was reminded over the weekend of, once again, the power of, once a context is picked, that all of the situations in life that are the unexpected, that are naturally going to arise anyway, that the use of actively using the context in each of those opportunities is an opportunity to continue to grow, to evolve, and to navigate, and be most effective, given the situation. And so as we go into opening up the conversation for today, the purpose of today's call was to be able, in workshop form, for you to be able to share what your context is and why and how you landed on it. And then if you're open to it, and I see that there's an opportunity to dig into it, go into a deeper conversation to either anchor the fact that that is absolutely like you're on it for you, which is not for me to decide, that's for you to decide. Or if there is a question and possibility that perhaps there's a higher context that you haven't yet hit, and we have the opportunity to reveal that in today's conversation. So we'll take as many as we have time for in the next 20 minutes, and you will know it's your turn because you have jumped off mute and have and started to talk. Okay, go. Because the majority
Okay,
the
I'll go first.
black boxes, I'm not able to stare anyone down.
I'll go first. So I landed on growth for mine. One, because obviously I just made the switch, which was huge for me. I'm officially active as of yesterday, so that was pretty cool. Woohoo!
Well,
Thank you. And now I'm official. So there's that. So growth is I guess I've just been looking at what I've been doing over the last couple years, and I really have come a far way just in the last 3 years in my life, moving across the country, starting a business, like starting to become like an actual person. And I think growth for me is important because I'm always wanting to, like you said, you just had a great word of just evolving and like adapting and growing. And so for me, with my new business opportunity, this is a huge experience for me to be able to learn and to grow and to just learn something that I never even thought that I would get into. Like, I never thought that I would be in residential development. Like, no idea that I would even be interested in it or anything like that. So, I think that's why I kind of landed on growth, is to always just look for how to adapt in every situation, whether it's personal, business, health, wealth, et cetera, et cetera.
okay. Are you up for a couple of questions?
I sure am.
All right. So for those of you that are listening, I am listening in context, which is a whole nother training. So listening in context, and Selena and I did this when we had our all-day business planning session. I had a big piece of paper, and as we were talking about her context for the year, I just said, tell me where you're at, where you think you're at, and why. And as she was talking, and just really being able to process out loud and let all those things come out, I was writing one word and then another word and then another word and then another word, which is the highest context. Sometimes she said the word, sometimes she didn't say the word. And if you go back and you were to look at that piece of paper from what she shared, you can see it tells an entire story that loops right back around to the top of where she started, with a little bit of refinement, which just clarified that based on all of that, she walked herself through, and we could see, like, oh, this is it, right? So peace of mind and heart. So we added the heart part. But it was peace of mind that went through all of those layers of things. So as I'm listening to you in your shares just now, you said growth, you said evolve, adapt, you said learn. However, there was actually more in what you did not say than in what you did say. And so I'm going to share with you what I heard as you were saying all of those things, because you talked about growth, evolving, adapting, and learning, but you also talked about residential development and a new space. So yes, there's growth that will happen in there. However, what I heard is that then you talked about the changes that you'd made and moving across the country and all those things. And what I heard was that this is your breakaway year.
I love that.
So you're like
Yeah.
breaking away from traditional, you're breaking away from the masses, you're like in your own lane, breaking away. You've just changed companies, so you've broken away from where you've been at, the last couple of years in your career. And when you think about like the opportunity to break away versus growth energetically, what does that feel like in your body?
How does growth feel accomplished?
No, so when you think about the word
Oh,
growth, which is the one you started with, versus breakaway and living in one of those contexts for the year, what is the feeling that comes up when you think about feeling of being in a context of growth for the year, or the feeling of what a breakaway year could look like?
well, now I don't even know if I have any emotions towards growth, because breakaway is such a great word that I'm like, I resonate more with that, but that wasn't even something that I had considered. That wasn't even like a perspective that I was taking on. So I don't know, breakaway kind of how I feel, opportunistic, I guess. Like it makes me feel excited, um, joyful, I guess. I don't want to say seeing the light at the end on at the end of the tunnel, but it allows me to see things in a different perspective. Like change is good. Change is good. And yes.
Okay. So I'm going to just highlight two things that I said. I said, what did it make you feel? Not how did it make you feel? And
Oh.
this is nothing about how you responded. A lot of times people, like there's coaching that's running all through this right now. A lot of times people will say, well, how do you feel? And when you ask the question, how, your reason and logic part of the brain lights up, and it takes you out of an actual feeling that may be happening in your body to a thinking space of, oh, well, how do I feel? Versus I specifically asked the question, what do you feel? Because when that word, as it relates to feelings, what do you feel? It's going to help you drop down into your body of what you actually do feel, which you said was opportunistic, excited, joyful, and that there's a perspective shift, right? So are these are things that you can use for yourself as it relates to how you manage your own energy and your context, and also how you manage it with other people, right?
Yeah.
I don't once I learned the difference as it related to connecting with people and feelings, I never ask how someone's feeling, because I know that I'm not going to get a feeling, I'm going to get a thought out of that. Or
Yeah.
no, it's not going to be an actual feeling versus what is someone feeling. And then there's that. Okay, so let's play with the word breakaway. I'm not saying that that's your word. I'm just saying that's what came up for me as I was listening to you. And it seems like you have more of an energetic connection to the word breakaway than growth, which is great. The visual that came up for me when you were describing all of that is horse racing. I don't like horse racing because I love horses and I hate what they do in horse racing. However, there is a thing in horse racing that is by the nose, like in by the nose, right? Because one horse breaks away from the rest just enough to win, right? So as you were describing, and I know obviously a little bit more from talking with you about what you're working on and the direction that you're going in your life and your career. So I did have some, backstory
Yes.
outside of what you shared. Like this context of breakaway, when you think about the different ways that you can use it, let's look at all of the challenges that might arise when you're in a new lane or a newer lane or a less charted territory lane, and how you might be able to use that when you run up against the things that you're going to inevitably run up against to manage your own energy. Right?
Yeah.
So start to be thinking about that. And then also, if breakaway is going to be the one that you choose for yourself that you land on, how's that going to support you in a personal context based on what your goals are for the year personally? And so for you to just get clear on, like, when you look at that whole picture, faith, family, finances, fun, friends, all of the different areas of life, this context is going to impact for the year. Run it through those and check in. And this will be something for you, right? So I feel like it could be breakaway for sure, could be your context. And as you sit with it, does it feel like it is, or does it feel like maybe that there's something else?
Well, now that I'm thinking about personal, I'm trying to think about how to put that context into a different perspective in not just business. So that's an interesting, like you just said, that's an interesting lane for me to go down when I have to plug it into my different aspects of life. So it's like I kind of resonate with it, but I think I have to think pretty deeply about on the personal level, and everything that encompasses personal.
So tell me, if you're open to sharing with the group, what is it that
Sure.
what are your targets or goals or whatever you want to call them? I like calling them targets because for me, target is such more of a visually powerful thing. Like if I'm going for the target and I don't hit the thing in the middle and I hit the ring on the outside, I am still a freaking success because I'm on the board versus I set this goal and I hit it or I didn't hit it. I like targets. So whatever works for you and how you manage your energy as it relates to that. But when you're thinking about what you have for goals, targets, however, on the personal side for this year, what are those things?
Like in terms of like finances or anything personally?
Yeah, personally. As it comes to your relationships, as it comes to fun, as it comes to friends.
I would love to take a vacation. It's been like 6 years, so I would love to have some personal time and like actually have the funds to be able to go and spend time with, me and my boyfriend. And that's super important to me. I'm also super ready to purchase my first investment property. I mean, this is business and personal, but really getting on a deeper level with my investors and my developers, that's extremely important to me. And then seeing my family out in California is super important for me this year because it's been over 3 years since I last saw them.
Okay.
So those are my big goals.
Okay, so let's link the breakaway context with that. If you're going to take a vacation and you haven't taken a vacation in multiple years, is it going to require you to break away from working?
Yes.
Okay, great. If you're going to go see your family, you haven't been out to visit family, is it going to require you to break away from all the things that you're physically doing in the spot that you are to leave and go visit family?
100%.
And if you're going to develop closer relationships with your investors and the people that you're working with, will it require that you break away to create dedicated, focused, intentional time to create those kind of relationships?
Yeah.
And if you're going to buy an investment property this year, is that going to require that you do things differently than what the masses of people are doing and break away in how you manage your money and your intention behind it?
100%.
So we have some links on how this context can be actively worked in all of the areas of your life, such that when you get to, oh, I haven't actually planned the vacation, I want to do the vacation, I haven't planned it, you're like, wait a minute, my context is breakaway, I'm not using it as relates to getting this vacation planned and executed. When it comes to visiting your family and you are like, yes, later in the year, things are too busy right now, well, I'm going to figure it out before the end of the year and it's not on the calendar yet. You can go, wait a minute, my context is breakaway. I'm getting it on the calendar and everything else shall revolve around it because it's really important to me. Right? You see like there's an active application of how you use the context of breakaway in different areas and different meanings to still be living in the same word. So breakaway, like away from the pack, but then also break away as far as physically removing yourself and breaking away to then move into these other areas and aspects. So I don't know. I think you may have your word.
I think I do. I actually really like that, and I feel much more. I feel like I can relate with that a lot more than growth because growth can be kind of broad to where like breakaway I feel is more specific, and I feel more attached to that word. So I like that.
Can I piggyback off that?
Yeah, jump right in.
Oh, and I'm so excited and I'm nervous, which is crazy because I'm such a Leo talker, Casey. So I love all of this. I have been changed since I listened last week. Casey, I connect with Stacey Corley in Pennsylvania and you and Rick. And I also hopped on your 2020 Cabo, one of the segments you did. And what I heard Rick say was meditation. And I know that's crazy. I'm not even sure what meditation means. And I'm going to kind of squirrel here for a minute to reel myself back in with you. Listen to that. I was drawn to it. I can't tell you why, but obviously it's because we're talking about context. I don't really understand it, but I have spent several hours the last week diving into this, not kind of Googling it like this young lady did, but notes I took were this. What's the one thing, word, context that I will choose that will shift things profoundly for me? So I love possibilities, but then I thought, oh my gosh, is that cheesy? I'm taking Casey's context. And so I let it go. And I thought, oh, well, my word that I think I want in big, bold print is connect. And then I took little notes about connect for me. Meeting people. I want them to know me. Community. I want people to feel safe. I want them to know they matter. Loyalty. And I'm saying those things, but I think from a business perspective, because I'm such a giver, that's about other people and maybe not me. I'll also give you a little snippet you don't know. No, that's not true. It's been so many years, you guys, since I've had to look for business. I have anxiety like I haven't experienced probably ever. This is my story. I haven't had a signing, or I won't call it a transaction because I'm not transactional, since September 1st. That's 4.5 months. Holy smokes. What's going on? If I look back to see what I did or didn't do last spring, which was probably didn't prospect enough, I can put some things together. So now I'm intertwined with, what do I do? What am I going to do? I want to change and impact. I believe I'm here to help people, but where are my people? Why don't I have people? What's my context? What's my bowl for my goals and fruit?
Meaningful connection.
Mm-hmm.
So meditation is simply that you are slowing your brain waves down to get connected to yourself, to be able to be open to hear, see, feel things that you're not when you're like whirring all around the place. And if you had more meaningful connection, would you have that? What would more meaningful connection with yourself look like, and how you manage your own energy? Number one. What would more meaningful connection look like as it relates to how you're connecting with other people? Number two, and how does that impact the business that you're doing if you're able to create meaningful connection? And if you start to like just play with that by way of example, that is something that, as you were saying, was just like screaming to me, that was woven through every single piece of what you said. And if you use that as a context word to run that through every single scenario that you just played out, and the things that you want to do more of, which is business, the things that you want to improve at, which is some kind of like grounded, centered, not spinning all over the place. If like, that's the connection with yourself, right? Meaningful connection with yourself. And then if you have a base of meaningful connection with yourself, you're taking on some kind of meditation practice, if that resonated with you. And now the foundation, you've created that meaningful connection inside your foundation before you go out into the world. And you go out into the world with a context of meaningful connection in your community, in your business, in your family, and your relationships. Then meaningful, meaning meaningful not just for them, meaningful for you as well. You're in a place where you're able to serve. However, there's also reciprocity. So if that means you do more business, or if that means opportunities are open to you as a result, maybe you start off and you start to play with meaningful connection.
So I would like one quick example, and then I'll let somebody else hop in because this is important. It's great. So can you, looking for instance, it's easy and natural for me to say, just like you did, Casey, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities if I do this? What are the possibilities to stop my negative thoughts? So if I have meaningful connections, I'm looking for, it doesn't feel natural. I don't know how to express that.
So if you're starting to have negative thoughts, is that a meaningful connection that you want to create and continue to embed in yourself?
No, absolutely.
No. It's a connection to something that's negative. So now if that connection's meaningful, what are you going to do to manage your thoughts differently when you become aware that they're popping up and going down a track that doesn't serve you?
Copy that. Got it.
You can shift the track and, oh, I'm connecting with myself to anchor more negativity. Great. My context for the year is meaningful connection. Oh, I'm going to switch tracks. And to create meaningful connection with what I'm anchoring, what are the thoughts that there would be for me to choose to think such that those are thoughts in a direction that I want to go versus a direction I don't want to go. And you anchored a meaningful connection back to yourself. Maybe it's not meaningful connection. It could just be a place to start, right?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Somebody else should hop in.
To drill down. Well, here's what I want to say, because we're at the bottom of the hour, is that if anybody wants to send me theirs offline and connect offline about it, we can do that. I feel like we got a really great example, and Eleanor, thanks for being willing to jump in and let me really dig in with you. So from a process,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. From a process perspective, if we were to go back to the how to, you get clearer on a context and what it is, okay, here's what I think it is, and then all of the context about why, and then what is the bigger, more powerful, overarching context that all of those things sit in that now actually become content because there's a higher context, right? So growth, evolve, adapt, learn are all the fruit in the bowl of breakaway. So what we started off with as a context is actually now content. And so all those things can still be in there and be a part of it, but they're now held by something that's more powerful as a guide moving forward. Second thing is taking whatever that context is going to be, looking at every aspect of your life that you've set goals or targets for the year, and getting very clear and starting to think about how I would use that in those areas and how they're going to help move me forward in those areas as I use them in that way. And then, of course, you're going to have all of the unexpecteds that are going to pop up like they did for me last weekend and create an opportunity for you to use them, or remember to use them when you are reeling out of control in another stratosphere and not on track. So thank you guys for being on today, for your participation. Look for more in the future. The next learning series that we're going to do is how to create meaningful conversations and 6 specific steps to do it. It's going to be broken up into a 6-part series that's each a half an hour. And when put all together, you will be a master enroller. It's going to make you a ninja as far as creating meaningful conversations with people, and as that relates in a personal context and for sure a professional context. Because we are always enrolling or being enrolled in something. It's just a matter of who has the most powerful skill set. So this will, if you master this one skill set around communication and conversation, you will be the person that is enrolling versus being enrolled into somebody else's something. So it's going to really help to position you in great ways. And I like to have fun. It's one of my favorite things to train and speak on. So appreciate you all. And we'll go ahead and make sure that this recording is posted. I'll put it back up. It'll go up on the Empire Builders Pro website under, where does it go, Selena?
We're putting it under courses.
Oh yeah, courses. That makes sense that it would go there. It's going under courses. That's where you'll find the recordings. And thank you, Laura, for getting that up and posted. And make it a great day, everyone. To be continued.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Casey, have a great day.
You too. Bye.